Keep going. There we go, we're past.
Play home then.
So in today's video, I am pulling out my engine out of the s13 because it was starting making a bit of noise. So here we just pulled the wiring off and started pulling some of the parts out, the alternator off and all that. And yeah, just sort of getting it ready to pull out. So I had to take the intake off and all, like the valley pan part. Also had to pull a lot of the wiring back for the interior, so pulled the seat out, had to pull the dash back out because we're going to a different ECU that will come in a later video. But yeah, we had the engine here all ready to go with the plate on it for the engine crane to hook onto, and it was all ready with the exhaust off. Engine mounts were up next, exhaust is all out, tail shaft is all out as well, so it's all was basically ready to come out of the car. So here I'm going into the car to loosen off the engine mount on the bottom. I am undoing the hydro bracket so I can get the shifter off so we can pull the engine and trans out at the same time. May be able to see that wiring up ahead, but we are going to be fixing that later on in a later video, so don't stress over it too much. Definitely was a terrible thing of me rewiring my car for the first ever car I wired up from scratch by myself. So and then here is when we're starting to pull out the engine. So we've taken off the whole trans mount and cross member for the trans and pull this out, but then as we're pulling it up, I noticed my engine mount was apparently broken. God knows how long it was broken for, but it was the bottom half of the engine mount. It's literally split apart and separated from the top half, which is crazy, but those were just factory sort of S13 engine mounts sort of. So yeah, here we are, just jacking it out while my dad lowers down the trans so we can get it on the angle we needed to get it out of the car.
To protect your soul.
Of course, as we're pulling this out, it starts to rain, so I'm out there getting soaked while trying to pull the engine out, but we decided to stop and wait for the weather to stop to continue pulling it out. Finally stopped, and I was hopped into the engine bay to hold up the trans so we can get it past the car, so then we can get the car moved out of the shed so we can have the engine and trans sitting in there to pull it apart. So yeah, we got the car out, the engine and trans in the shed, ready to pull the trans off the car. So here I'm pulling my starter motor off. It's the rod shop starter motor because I have the left-hand starter motor, or starter motor conversion sort of kit. So here I pull it out, and then I realize when I put it down, the thrower gear fell straight out of the starter. Well, I flipped it down, but it just went onto a spine in my back end. So here I'm, of course, loosening off the top bolts of the trans, getting ready to pull it out. And yeah, we just give it a bit of prying around and pried it a little bit more, and then it separated from the engine and then moved it into a place out of the way so we can pull the clutch off and pull the rest of the engine apart as well. So yeah, here I'm just pulling off the pressure plate to have a look at the clutch, because it's had 1.5 years of driving on it, so we're going to freshing from drifting, so to see if it has got hot or wear down. Its life is pretty good. It got a little bit hot. There was a little bit of rainbows here and there, but it still had quite a lot of meat left on the clutch, so it's still good to go. So yeah, and then taking the rest of the flywheel off, just prying that off so we can, of course, get that off to get the spacer off for this rod shop starter conversion kit, so then we can put it onto an engine stand with a bracket so we can start pulling it apart. So here I drained the oil. There was a little bit of metal on the sun plug, and it was a bit glittery when it was pulling out. So here, pulling off the rocker covers, so when we can pull the rockers off, because we thought it may be a lifter issue. So we're just going to check the rockers and the push rods, and of course the lifters. But we're pulling the rockers out and the push rods out so we could have the engine towed lifted up, and of course it was pouring then again, like pouring sideways. It was crazy, but yeah, we're here. I'm pulling the rockers off and the push rods out, like I was saying, so we can do a leak down test. So I pulled them all off, so then we can have the valves all the way up. So it's just easy to just chuck in every cylinder and test the leak down and what percentage they got for to make sure that my rings weren't going in the engine. And they all got perfect readings, but cylinder 8 got 22, so that was the highest out of all of them. But we are going to go ahead and replace all the rings in the engine, put new ones in. So yeah, we got the heads off. The heads look pretty good, still basically brand new. And when we put the lifters out, and every single lifter was perfect. The buckets were still perfect, everything else like that. And here we are ready to, well, we pulled the sump off here now and everything else like that, and turning it over, getting ready to pull off the oil pump. The oil pump stayed on there, but pull off the pickup tube and the winch tray that factory LSs have. And here, pull the pickup tube off, and then a O-ring stayed in the pump, but then I realized later that the O-ring was pinched a little bit. So it's not exactly what you want. You don't want your O-ring pinched, especially for oil pressure issues. You don't want air coming in, so that was one issue we did find. Just making some room so I can put the windows tray on. Of course, you can see my puppies thinking that I'm moving around food because they just want food. So here we're pushing out one of the pistons out just to have a look at the rings and not the rings, the bearings and stuff like that. But everything here looks perfectly fine. The bearings were all perfect. The wear was how you want it to be. But then this is where the main issue, the main problem we're having comes into play with cylinder 6. But yeah, pulled off the main cap, and like they do sometimes, the bearing sticks to the crank, so we couldn't see much else. So I pulled the main cap off, and then we got the hammer, and of course you use the handle and just lightly tap the piston out of the engine. And so when we pushed that one out, or hit that one out, my dad realized that in the rod where the bearing sits got a bit hot, and I had these machined, like honed and stuff like that before I built the engine, when I put the new studs in it. And then right here is when I realized that the bearing is gone. Pulled it out and it was hot, and yes, definitely did not look good, and we were hoping to find something, but definitely not a bearing. I was hoping that I might have been a lifter, but we did a bearing. And here we are checking the crank. The crank, you can feel the scratches with your nail, the marks in the crank, so we'll have to check and make sure that actually works. But yeah, of course it doesn't help when I'm thrashing around like I was. You can hear it, just feel it. And unless I had tooth for it, you wouldn't know it was making that noise. So yes, after flooring it like that and not hearing that it turned out to be a bearing, this is what it sort of does to the crank after beating it for a bit. It was getting worse from that event through the 2 days, so luckily I didn't go again, because I think the engine definitely would have not lasted another run out on the main track with the bearing looking like this. Definitely not what you want to find. So yeah, and then we ended up pushing the car back in for the night, and we're going to pull the rest of it off, the balance of the front plate, cam and crank out of the car, out of the engine I mean, since we didn't have the correct tool to do it. So here we've already pulled the oil pump off the front timing plate and the balancer. So here I'm just pulling my camshaft out of the engine. It's sometimes easy to put the cam, like gear, back on the cam, so you got something better to grab onto when it's first in there, so you can pull it out. But you just gotta keep wiggling it carefully and it'll eventually will come out. You just have to try and get it through each bearing. Alright, so yeah, here we are pulling out the main bolts of the crankshaft I mean. And the main cap bearings were sweet as, perfect as, and yeah, we got the crank out, ready to take it to an engine shop to see if it would be fixable. But yeah, here I decided to take out the dumbbell, as some people call it. No dumbbell. I know people say a factory one is alright, but I thought I might replace it just because. But yeah, here it wouldn't focus. But this is also the end of the video, so I hope you guys did enjoy, and I'll see you guys in the next video about the s13 build.